All right, the moment you've all been waiting for. We are live for our first live commentary stream of 2026 Daytona Speed Week, as tonight we have pole qualifying for the Daytona 500, and we begin things off, of course, with this single car session. One car on the track, one lap per 45 drivers, all to set the front row for this year's running of the Daytona 500. We will also be locking in the first two open entries into the main event, which will be Sunday's Daytona 500, based off of the top qualifying times from the 8 open entries, which remain to have to qualify their way into the race. 2 today and then 2 tomorrow through the 260-lap dual races, one in each duel, where we'll set up the full field starting lineup from positions 3rd through 41st. Appreciate everybody tuning in. This is our third live commentary stream of the year. We had the Busch Clash a week ago from this last Wednesday. Fun event there on a Wednesday night at Bo McGray Stadium, but we are back in Daytona. Much warmer weather. Clear skies, it looks like, for the most part this week. Very great weather. Knock on wood that we don't have any rain implications. It doesn't look like that is going to be the case, with moderately cool temperatures. I shouldn't say cool temperatures because I live in Northwest Ohio, and although it's like 35 degrees outside, it's the warmest it's been over the last 2 days in like a month. But much warmer than that in Daytona, about 70 degrees earlier today, into the mid-60s now, into the nighttime skies. We'll see similar temperatures throughout the course of the weekend. No major changes there. Obviously, on Sunday, we'll start the race and more than likely finish the race during the day, as long as we don't have any weather delays. Thanks for everybody tuning in. Earl Arnold Jr., Ethan, you are the first in the chat down below. I'll shout out as many of you guys that I can as I see you in the chat throughout the course of today's stream. On NASCAR.com right now, the raw feed is not up at the moment, but it will be when we get closer to qualifying. We are still a little over 15 minutes away from the first car hitting the track tonight. Drop of the green flag for qualifying is scheduled for 8:15 Eastern, I do believe. So about 8:15 Eastern, we will see the first car on track. And Corey Hyde will be the first driver to go out for qualifying. Wait for a few others to file in here before we go over some important notes based off of what happened earlier today. The first practice session for the Daytona 500 was in the late morning hours at the Daytona International Speedway. Mostly single car, but there were a couple of small packs that ended up running in that practice session. And for some reason, I can't pull up the full results on NASCAR.com, so I'm going to have to read them off the app. I did put I'll blank the screen out here for a second. I did put the top times in the respected order. Who are the 8 open cars? I'll get into that in a sec. Connor Burke, thanks for tuning in. Technically, there is 9 open entries, but Jimmy Johnson is locked into the Daytona 500 in a 41st starting position. Using the same provisional that Elio Castroneves and Team Trackhouse used last season to get him in the main event. So Jimmy will not have to race his way in despite being an open entry, though he is not allowed to race for any of the purse money this weekend. So simply loving the game is what Jimmy Johnson is racing for this weekend. Yeah, FS1 currently has college basketball going on. I would imagine that FS2 will start qualifying coverage. Let's see here. Trying to see how much time they have left in the game. Keep you updated. Looks like they got about 6.5 minutes left. University of Iowa versus University of Maryland's men's basketball. College basketball is on at the moment on FS1. But the top 10 is shown on screen. Austin Cindric is the fastest. I think that is very noteworthy because Penske seems to have very fast cars in the next-gen era in qualifying at Daytona. They obviously had the pole. Ford had swept the front row a couple years ago. Joey Logano getting the pole. Michael McDowell in second. And then last year as well, was very strong on the super speedways, though, despite the fact it was actually Toyota. Chase Briscoe qualified on the pole for the Daytona 500, though the Fords pretty much locked out a lot of the top 5 throughout the rest of the season. And it was the Penske cars of Cindric and Logano more often than not that would front the way, along with a couple of those front row motorsport Fords like a Todd Gilliland and a Zane Smith at some other racetracks as well. I mentioned already about Michael McDowell when he was in the 34 car, was a competitor for the front row at Daytona as well. With Cindric being on the top spot in practice earlier today, though that was in the draft, you don't see his teammates of Joey Logano or Ryan Blaney anywhere near the top 10. They were actually outside the top 30. They made single car runs in qualifying where their teammate was in the pack. Most of the cars that were in the top half of the field obviously did have some drafting help to get their way up there, so it's kind of tough to lean on those practice times from earlier this morning and actually judge as to how those times will compete to times, or even the drivers that were on the top of the leaderboard to compete with the top of the leaderboard once we get into qualifying here in a few moments. So Cindric was P1, Ross Chastain was second, Corey LaJoie third, Bubba Wallace fourth, Daniel Suarez in fifth, then Alex Bowman in sixth, Eric Jones seventh, Corey Heim in eighth, Kyle Larson ninth, Jimmy Johnson rounded out the top 10. And what you don't see on screen here, I'll roll down the order on my phone. 11, John Hunter Nemechek. In 12th, it was Kyle Busch. Chase Briscoe, 13th. Austin Dillon, 14th. Riley Herbst, 15th in practice. Ty Dillon in 16th. Connor Zillage, 17th. Chris Buescher, 18th. Justin Allgaier, 19th. And Chase Elliott rounded out the top 20. 21st was Josh Berry. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 22nd. Denny Hamlin, 23rd. Ryan Preece, 24th. Cole Custer, 25th. Anthony Alfredo, 26th. Tyler Reddick, 27th. Brad Keselowski, 28th. Carson Hocevar, 29th. And Christopher Bell, 30th. 31st, Ryan Blaney. Joey Logano, 32nd. Cody Ware, 33rd. William Byron, 34th. Chandler Smith, 35th. Ty Gibbs, 36th. AJ Allmendinger, 37th. Shane Van Gisbergen, 38th. Noah Gragson, 39th. Zane Smith, 40th. BJ McLeod, 41st. Casey Mears, 42nd. And JJ Yeley, 43rd. Only 43 of the 45 entries made at least one participating lap in practice. 2 drivers did not. And as far as the open entries go, I also have that list on screen. In the order of the 8 drivers who will have to either race or qualify their way in on time this weekend, Corey LaJoie was the fastest, of which he was 3rd fastest overall in practice. Corey Heim, who was also in the top 10, was 2nd. Justin Allgaier was just inside the top 20 in 3rd. On the open entry list, Anthony Alfredo was in 4th. Chandler Smith in 5th. 6th was BJ McLeod. Casey Mears in 7th. And JJ Yeley 8th. 6th through 8th on the open entry list were actually the last 3 overall in practice. They were single file. And I don't like their chances of being able to qualify their way in tonight. It looks like the 78, the 66, the 44, Yaley, Mears, and McLeod probably going to have to race their way in. I would lean towards the top 5 of competing for the single car speed times. And Corey LaJoie and Corey Heim are going to be very tough to beat based off the practice times from earlier today and just the in-house teams that they operate under. They're the only of the teams that you see on that list that would race with full-time teams most weeks. Obviously, we're not going to see the 99 to 67 every single week, but you'll see RFK on the track every weekend in the Cup Series 2311. And I guess the same can be said for Chandler Smith. He could be an outlier there because Front Row Motorsports has had great qualifying speed in recent years. So it's definitely going to be tight to see who's going to qualify their way in tonight to the Daytona 500. I would lean again towards those top 5, but 3 of them in particular, I think, could actually go out there and qualify inside the top 10 overall. I'm being completely honest. All right, Garrett B, Sid for Brains. Thanks for tuning in as well. Good evening, everyone. See if NASCAR.com maybe has the raw feed up now. I might have to log out of the current website. Fox Sports 1 is currently airing the finish of the Iowa Hawkeyes and Maryland Terrapins college basketball game, men's college basketball. Once that wraps up, there's a few minutes left in that game. Then FS1 will have your full coverage of qualifying. For right now, FS2 is starting the airing for qualifying for the NASCAR Cup Series. Right where we left off with the Clash, being bumped on FS2 right out of the gate, but a little bit of a different circumstance here, obviously. I just split my TV over to FS2. Kyle Lance, Frank Powers, welcome to the stream. All right. So Super Speedway qualifying has stayed the same from last year versus this year, where it is 2 rounds. Top 10 will advance from round 1 into round number 2. And only the front row will be set for the official starting lineup for Sunday's Daytona 500. And we will lock in 2 of the 8 open entries into the Daytona 500 tonight again as well. Racing greater than basketball. I'd agree with you, Garrett. Got about 80 people in the chat already. Greatly appreciate you all tuning in. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done so yet. Our like goal usually is only 50 for these live commentary streams for practice and qualifying. We'll have practice and qualifying coverage all season long. No practice coverage this week in particular. A couple of the days they have practice very early in the afternoon, or in this case, today they had it in the late morning hours at Daytona. I was unable to practice. I was at work, so be sure to tune in most of the season for practice and qualifying when we get back to having that coverage on later Friday afternoons, Saturday afternoons, or mornings. But for this week in particular, we obviously have qualifying coverage for you tonight, but no practice coverage for Daytona for the rest of the week. We will be live every day between today and Sunday, though. We're going to be live again tomorrow night with the dual races at Daytona beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll also be live on Friday for the Craftsman Truck Race at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. The ARCA and O'Reilly Series races, doubleheader, if you will, on Saturday afternoon, noon Eastern for ARCA, 5 p.m. Eastern for the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. And for the NASCAR Cup Series, of course, the Daytona 500 will go live an extra hour early before the start of the race, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. All those start times you can find in the community tab, but figured I'd throw those out there now before we get into on-track activity. John Barber, welcome to the stream. Zachary Powers, thanks for tuning in as well. H. Holly D, welcome in. Carl Ortle, thanks for tuning in as well from Saskatchewan. Greetings from up north. I'm excited. This is the beginning of Speed Weeks. This is like the build up to Christmas for me as a race fan, as a NASCAR fan, lifelong. Proud to be bringing you guys coverage of this weekend's Speed Week 2026 edition. We have about 7 minutes until the first car hits the racetrack. Again, about 8:15 Eastern, they were supposed to go live. And I don't know if NASCAR is maybe going to wait on that a little bit longer with them currently airing on FS2, as there is a college basketball game going on right now on FS1 that is just finishing up before coverage will get flipped over to FS2. NASCAR Wildcat fan, thanks for tuning in. So it was a random draw, with this being the first race of the season, as to the order in which these drivers and teams will go out for qualifying, except for the last 20. So from 26th through 45th, it is going to be based off of owners' points of last year. Now, it was a random draw between those 20 spots and owners' points, but field was basically flip-flopped, where the back half of the field and then the front half when it comes to the random draw qualifying that you'll see today. Once we go into next week and the weeks going forth, it'll be a combination of owners' points, drivers' points, and the fastest lap from the week before, which will dictate the metric that NASCAR uses for qualifying on a week-to-week basis. But with this being the first race of the season and not taking the Clash, which was an exhibition race a week ago, again, a random draw for this weekend to see who goes out first and basically who goes out last. Michael Smith, thanks for tuning in. Yes, great to have you all back. Janet Barker, welcome in. I love NASCAR too. That's why we're all here. Fun stuff. I wish NASCAR's raw feed was up and running so I could show you guys the actual order in which they'll qualify. Obviously, once cars hit the racetrack, we should be able to get some form of a live leaderboard or a raw feed of qualifying, but we have not seen a car on track yet. There we go. Now I've got the practice leaderboard up. And into qualifying. There we have it. All right, so raw feed is up and running. So because it is a random draw, you're not going to see all the open entries go first. We're going to start things off with Corey Heim. He'll be the first driver out for qualifying. The second driver will be Justin Allgaier, who is another one of the 8 open entries. Our first chartered entry of Eric Jones in the 43 for Legacy Motor Club will be third. Ty Dillon fourth. Cole Custer will be fifth. 6th car on track will be Ryan Preece. Casey Mears, a third open entry in 7th. Todd Gillen 8th. Daniel Suarez 9th. Jimmy Johnson the first 10. And again, the top 10 advance into round 2, where they will requalify in descending order of how they finished off round 1, 10th through 1st. In the booth, as usual, for the Fox programming, Mike Joy, Kevin Harvick, and Clint Boyer. But I'll take you through qualifying for tonight. Full coverage. I've got my notes ready. They're in front of me. I got the chat in front of me as well. And just waiting for Corey Heim to get on the racetrack so we can get this special day underway. A lot of history and prestige at the Daytona International Speedway, especially coming to the week leading up to the Daytona 500. It is a big deal to qualify on the pole for this great American race. And we'll see who's going to be able to do that here tonight. Our list of drivers who have qualified on the pole in the Daytona 500 that is going to be in the field this weekend would include 2-time pole sitter Jimmy Johnson, who qualified on the pole for the 500 in 2008 and 2002. Austin Dillon back in 2014, his rookie season. Chase Elliott, his rookie and sophomore seasons of 2016 and 2017. William Byron's lone 500 pole in 2019. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in 2020. Kyle Larson in 2022. Joey Logano in 2024, Chase Briscoe last season in 2025, and Alex Bowman, the most poles of any active driver, 3 apiece for Alex Bowman, 2018, 2021, and 2023. Now, when it comes to drivers who have qualified on the front row in the Daytona 500, you can add a couple more to that list. Denny Hamlin is a front row starting spot, as well as Austin Cindric. Johnson actually has 4 front row starting positions. Michael McDowell just the one, which was his pole a couple years ago. Or outside of the front row, a couple years ago in 2024. Chase Elliott has the 2 pole awards. Those are the only 2 front row starts he's had. Byron has started first and second place in the 500 in his career. Stenhouse's only front row start was his 2020 pole. Kyle Larson with 2 front row starts. Alex Bowman, most of any driver, 6 front row starts in the Daytona 500 for him. Joey Logano has 1, and Chase Briscoe has 1 as well. Again, they were the pole sitters in 24 and 25. So we'll see if those 2 lists will grow in length by the end of the night or not. Wade, thanks for tuning in. Mike Joy looking a little bit different this year? Do you mean like older? No offense to Mike Joy. Everybody ages, though. We're in this day and age of the internet where I feel like a lot of people are alarmed by the way people age. Especially if maybe, for instance, like a Mike Joy, where you don't see him on television for about 8 months because he only has the first few months of the NASCAR season. People do age. Janet Barker says Kyle Larson 2026 Daytona pole. We shall see. The Fords are going to be the ones to beat for qualifying tonight. Although I said that last year, and Chase Briscoe shocked the world qualifying on the pole in the Daytona 500. Briscoe actually qualified on the pole for all 4 of the Crown Jewel events: the Daytona 500, the Coke 600, the Southern 500, and the Brickyard 400. That was very historic in and of itself. Dean Tate, welcome to the stream. Sounds like he's got a cold. It did sound like he was a bit under the weather last week in the Clash, too. The very minimal parts of the race that I was listening to when I wasn't talking myself. All right, our first car is on the racetrack, ladies and gentlemen. FS2 still airing coverage of this year's Daytona 500 pole qualifying once the college basketball game on FS1 is concluded. That following commercial break, they'll end up jumping back onto that race. So unless it goes into overtime, I think these first 10 drivers or so will be on FS2 exclusively, and then FS1 you'll be able to watch the rest of qualifying tonight. Or you can listen in right here and or watch along, as we'll have our full coverage for you through the night. So with Corey Heim on the racetrack for 23XI Racing, he will be making his Daytona 500 debut this weekend, assuming that he can qualify his way in on time. 7 career Cup starts for Corey Heim. He had 4 of them last season, one of which he was supposed to make a start at Chicago. He actually DNQ'd in that race. So the only race that Heim has had to try to qualify his way in his Cup career, he did fail. That is noteworthy going into this weekend's race. But he doesn't have to race his way in tomorrow if he can qualify his way in on time here today. He was in the top 10 overall in practice, and he was the second fastest of the 8 open entries in that session earlier this morning. So we'll see if Corey Heim can find a way to put himself on top. Obviously, he's going to be the number 1 driver when his time locks in on this qualifying lap. New rule as well for the NASCAR Cup Series, or just NASCAR in general, when it comes to super speedway drafting style oval qualifying. You cannot put your hand up against the window net to try to help the airflow of the race car. That is a rule that has been instated by NASCAR. Obviously, last year we had a situation with Joey Logano having a wet glove during qualifying of the Daytona 500, and I wonder if that has something to do with it. There is a safety aspect to that. I mean, there would be some drivers that would take their hand off the wheel in the middle of the corner, while these drivers are the most talented in the stock car racing realms, or a lot of them are, at the very least. There's a little bit of a danger there that maybe NASCAR didn't want these drivers driving one-handed around the high-speed corners of over 180 miles an hour at Daytona. So maybe even more so on the engine and less on the driver, I guess, when it comes to the speed in which it will take to qualify on the front row this weekend. Still takes a little bit on the driver. The most really for the driver is getting up to speed and maximizing the amount of time you can in each gear when getting to your 5th gear down the back straightaway at Daytona. We want to elongate that as much as possible. You don't want to be on the rev chip at all. You'll see a lot of drivers run the outside of the racetrack as well through turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 on their warm-up lap. And obviously when they get to their up-to-speed lap, the one that counts, they'll be down on the yellow line all the way around at full speed, full throttle, floor to the board. So for Corey Heim, he put a lap down of a 49.138. That is a 183.158 mile per hour average. He was the first of the open entries, obviously, to go out first overall. Justin Allgaier, second place just behind him, just wrapped up his lap. 49.201 for Allgaier. Justin Allgaier had to race his way into the Daytona 500 last year. He finished 9th in both his dual and the actual Daytona 500 race as well. So looking to go back on that with Junior Motorsports making their second Cup start as an organization. And right now, Allgaier on the bubble spot of the open drivers. Second, when we only see the top 2 times make their way in. So Corey Heim looking good so far with that 49.138, and again a 49.201 for Allgaier. Eric Jones is on the racetrack. He's won at Daytona in his Cup career. It was in 2018. He got his first career Cup win at the World Center of Racing. It was in the summer race of that season. His best finish in the Daytona 500 is third in 2019. 49.332 for Eric Jones, third out of our first three qualifiers and the first of the chartered entries to hit the racetrack tonight. On to our fourth qualifier now, Ty Dillon in the number 10. Ty Dillon's best Daytona 500 finish was in 2019, where he finished in the 6th place position. Still looking for his first next-gen top 10 in the Daytona 500. He does have one in the summer race. Got just over 300 people watching. Greatly appreciate you all tuning in. Regan Smith has caught up with Connor Zilic for an interview amongst the qualifying that you see on screen.
Yeah, there's not much nerves for me today. I think Sunday will be a different story, but yeah, it's so cool to be, racing in the Great American Race with Red Bull and Trackhouse and Chevrolet, everyone who's given me this opportunity. So excited for tonight, but more excited for tomorrow and Sunday and getting racing and starting to figure these things out. It's going to be a lot, but yeah, really cool weekend for me. Good luck tonight. Thanks.
Set a win record.
All right, awesome job there. Connor Zilic, fresh out of the Xfinity Series, rookie in the Daytona 500 this year. He's one of only 2 drivers making their first Daytona 500 starts this weekend, or one of possibly 3, I guess. The 2 have to race their way in, Heim and Chandler Smith. But of the chartered entries, he is the only, I believe, rookie running full-time this year in the NASCAR Cup Series. Ty Dillon times in at a 49.497 on racetrack, 4th out of 4 drivers. Cole Custer will be the 5th car on track now, the 41, and the Haas Automation Ford Mustang. Custer's best finish in the Daytona 500, 11th back in 2021. He finished 4th in the summer race last season. And here's Corey Heim, the other rookie, attempting to make this race with Jamie Little after making his qualifying lap.
Moment like for you here at Daytona?
Yeah, it was a surreal feeling, just being able to look back when I was a kid, just so excited to wake up Sunday morning and watch the Daytona 500, and now being here as a 23-year-old, 18 years later, attempting my first one, it's a special feeling. I'll be lying to you if I said I wasn't nervous by any means, but looking pretty good so far, so we'll see. Just so grateful to be at 2311 Toyota. Those guys are so supportive of me, and even if we don't make it on speed, I'm confident that we can, work together to help me get in on the race through the duels. So we'll see. We'll sort it out.
Thanks, Roz, on the good beard, by the way, there. Comment in the chat. Jason Switzer, thanks for tuning in. Am I from Indiana? No, I'm actually from Ohio, Northwest Ohio. Dirt racing country, just like Indiana, but not quite in the geographic region. Still representing the Midwest, though. Hence the flannel. I'm definitely not from the South in Daytona, that's for sure. All right, third for Cole Custer, 49.322. It was the first Ford. Well, it would have been. I said Ford Mustang. I apologize for that. Cole Custer and that Haas Automation team actually switched to Chevrolet this winter. It was one of the bigger headlines of the offseason. And I believe they have a Hendrick Alliance as well with that. So I apologize for saying he was in a Ford Mustang. My first gaffe of the stream. Brandon Goodwin, thanks for tuning in. Why is it not on FS1? There's a college basketball game finishing up on Fox Sports 1. So airing of Daytona 500 coverage is on FS2 for now. Once that game is over, at the following commercial break, Fox Sports 1 will end up carrying the rest of tonight's coverage of qualifying. Iceblade, thanks for tuning in. On track is Ryan Preece. Or do I have the wrong number there? Nope, I got it right. It is Ryan Preece. Number 60. All the fonts for RFK Racing this weekend, as well as the 16 for AJ Allmendinger, representing Greg Biffle, who unfortunately lost his life, along with him and his family and friends, in a horrific helicopter accident just a couple of months ago. So the font was kind of throwing me off there for a little bit. But yes, Ryan Preece on the racetrack, winner of the Clash last Wednesday night. Still looking for his first career points paying win. He's had good runs in the Daytona 500 in the past, maybe not so much with the next-gen car. He's been airborne twice in the next-gen car, but he does have 2 career top 10s in the 500, both with JTD Doherty Racing. His best finish 2021, where he finished 6th. And as for Preece, he is now the top time on the racetrack, 49.081. Casey Mears, our third open entry, is now on racetrack. Mears has 494 career Cup Series starts. He made a few of them last season, looking to make a handful more this year on his quest to 500 career Cup Series starts. This one not a guarantee, as it looks like he's going to have to race his way in tomorrow night. Based off the practice times earlier this morning, it was looking like that was likely going to be the case. Mears is 7th out of 7 drivers to qualify, and he's already outside of the top 2 of the first 3 open entries. A 50.233 for Casey Mears on his qualifying lap. So Mears is done. Best career finish for Casey. He was a runner-up in the 2006 Daytona 500 to that of Jimmy Johnson, who is also in the field this weekend. So he's been in the mix for a win in this race before. Looking to try to race his way in, which is not a familiar sight for that of Casey Mears. Todd Gilliland in the 34 car on track for Front Row Motorsports. He'll be making his 5th Daytona 500 start this weekend. His best finish, though, is 27th 2 different times. This Ford should be pretty quick in qualifying, though, surprisingly for Gilliland as he wraps up his lap. 49.46 for Todd, 6th out of 8. That is very shocking. And that's also maybe a bit of a concern for Chandler Smith, who was at Front Row Motorsports as one of the open entries trying to make their way into the show. Because I was expecting more speed out of that Ford than what we ended up seeing. Ryan Preece's Ford at the top of the leaderboard, but not the case for Gilliland, which that car was on the front row with Michael McDowell behind the wheel just 2 years ago. And Gilliland, I believe, did have a pole last season as well at Talladega in the fall. Not sure what exactly happened there, but Gilliland's going to likely be starting from the back of the field in his duel tomorrow. 9th driver on track, Daniel Suarez in his new home at Spire Motorsports, wheeling the number 7 Chevrolet. First year not with Team Trackhouse in the next-gen era. And as for Suarez, 1 career top 10 in the Daytona 500, and that was in 2023, where he ended up finishing in 7th. Trying to build on that this weekend. Not the greatest qualifying lap, though, for Daniel Suarez, 49.552. And that's a bit surprising because Spire Motorsports, I should say, had fast cars in Daytona 500 qualifying. Carson Hocevar qualified inside the top 10 a season ago, and same for McDowell in the 71. But the 7 of Suarez doesn't look like he's going to have a time that will hold in the top 10 when we get more than that many drivers on track. Old 7-time Jimmy Johnson will be making his 23rd career Daytona 500 start this weekend. He does have a provisional despite being one of what would have been 9 open entries for this weekend, so that will lead for a 41-car field for Sunday's race. It's his 4th start in the 500 with Legacy Motor Club. He finished 3rd in last season's race, and obviously a 2-time Daytona 500 pole sitter and winner. His poles in 2002 and 2008, wins in 06 and 2013. 83 career Cup wins. If you haven't heard of this guy, I think you've been living under a rock or maybe new to the motorsports or NASCAR landscape. It's the most starts of any driver in the Daytona 500 field for this weekend, with those 23 starts. His teammate Eric Jones is in 5th right now, so we'll see where Jimmy ends up. And Jimmy will be slotted right behind him in 6th. 49.366. Good thing that Jimmy Johnson had that provisional, because otherwise they would have to race their way in tomorrow night had he not had it, because he's outside of the top 2 of the current open entries in qualifying single car. So 10 drivers are in the books. It looks like FS2 will be headed to commercial. I am not entirely sure if they'll be on FS1 here shortly. Yep, it will. Okay, so your programming alert, Fox Sports 1 will have coverage for qualifying the rest of the night. Obviously, more than welcome to stay here. Greatly appreciate everybody that has tuned in and is planning on staying tuned in. Regan Smith, has caught up with Justin Allgaier after his qualifying lap.
Sports and Junior Motorsports, the second 500 start. What do we do now for about the next 15 cars or so until we know one way or another? You're good right now, though.
Yeah, we're good right now. We wait, though. We're just really proud of this team. Everybody at Junior Motorsports. Obviously, Chris Stapleton and Traveler Whiskey coming back on board. All the folks at Brand. This race, I mean, we've talked about it, but, the importance of qualifying and just how much this race means. And, this team's done a great job. It's hard to be disappointed sitting 3rd right now, but knowing that Corey is in the same boat we are and being second to him, there's not a lot of room to look at that. So, we got the duels tomorrow night. If qualifying doesn't go the way we wanted to, and we raced our way in last year. So all the faith in the world in this team and this group, and just really proud of what we've assembled, and we're gonna go do everything we can to get the 500.
I think that's key. Mike raced his way in last year in exciting fashion.
Dean Jallo, David Hayes, thanks for tuning in. A couple of shout outs to those of you that I didn't get. I see a lot of Canadians in the chat tonight. It looks like no qualifying coverage for you guys. That's sad to hear, but appreciate you all tuning in for tonight's coverage. Again, we will be live for Speed Weeks all week long, from tonight through Sunday. Every on-track activity for racing from now between Sunday, we will be live for. Obviously, all of qualifying tonight as well. And every weekend throughout the NASCAR season, we do live commentary streams for practice, qualifying for the Cup Series, races for the Cup Series, races for Truck and O'Reilly as well, and select ARCA dates along with an Indianapolis 500 later in May. We did the Rolex 24 full 24-hour race coverage just a couple weeks ago. That was a lot of fun, and that kind of kickstarted our live commentary coverage for this season. And glad that NASCAR is back and obviously kickstarting it with the biggest race of the year. Amidst that interview with Justin Allgaier on the racetrack was Noah Gragson, who set a lap time of a 49.504, ninth quickest out of 11 qualifiers at that point in time. And as for Gragson making his 5th career Daytona 500 this weekend, his best finish 2 years ago, 2024, where he finished 9th. Also on track is AJ Allmendinger. Mentioned the 16 team are going to be representing Greg Biffle with the font throwback, if you will, to the Biff. And great to see that on a 16 car as well. Nonetheless, Allmendinger's career best finishes in the 500 in 2009 and 2017. He had a podium finish of 3rd in both of those races. He'll be making his 13th Daytona 500 start this weekend. Pretty decent time for AJ, right smack dab in the middle of our qualifying order. 7th out of 12, 49.459 for AJ. So FS2 has now wrapped up their coverage of qualifying, and Fox Sports 1 is where you can watch that, at least in the U.S. side of things. And they will have their full coverage for the rest of the night. They're currently on a full-screen commercial break, but when they come back, they will be on Fox Sports 1. 12 drivers have made a qualifying lap so far. Again, top 10 advanced to round 2, and the top 2 open times advance into the 500 field for this weekend. Riley Herbst is going to be the next car on the racetrack, and as for Herbst, he'll be making his 2nd career Daytona 500 start. Check that, actually his 4th career Daytona 500 start. And his best finish was with Rick Ware Racing back in 2023, his first 500. Where he actually finished in 10th in that race. 2nd full-time season in that 35 for 2311 Racing. And as he is just getting on the racetrack, and I still got a commercial break on my end, we're going to take our first break of our own for this stream. Thank you for listening live. Be sure to like and subscribe as we continue our full coverage of today's pole qualifying. Modern Genetics, thanks for tuning in. Have I reached out to Flow Racing for a job yet? I have not. I don't even know how I would go about doing that either, to be completely honest with you. Yes, Fox Sports 1 again is now airing qualifying for the rest of the Daytona 500 for tonight. Mark Crab, thanks for tuning in. Shout out to you. I don't think I gave you your shout out yet. I try to, anybody new I see in the chat, I do try to give you your shout out because I really appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. We're on a goal to get to 7,000 subscribers on the channel by the end of the Daytona 500 this Sunday. Set out for that goal when we kick-started our coverage for the Rolex 24 a couple weeks ago. We are approximately 153 away coming into the night. So much appreciated. Helps the channel out a ton. Hit the thumbs up on the stream. That helps out a ton as well. I try not to be overbearing with it and say it too much throughout the course of the stream, but I have to make sure I slide it in there at least a few times. The more these streams go, the more I'll be able to do it on a future basis. And maybe even be able to incorporate more streams full-time down the road as well. Because this is not my full-time job. I do have to work 40 hours a week elsewhere. Just subscribe tonight. Greatly appreciate that, David. That's awesome. Thank you so much. All right, we'll scroll back up here. Riley Herbst just finished up his lap time moments ago, and he was not the fastest of the Toyota camp. 49.452 for Herbst. That is going to slot him in 7th, right behind the Legacy Motor Club Toyotas of Jones and Johnson. So 4th out of the 4 Toyotas, 7th out of 13 qualifiers total. And on to Chandler Smith for Front Row Motorsports. Now, this is an interesting one because Chandler Smith's teammate Todd Gillen qualified 9th. That is well off of 2nd and 3rd place, where the current top 2 times for the open entries land, which is Corey Heim and Justin Allgaier. So a little bit of pressure on Chandler Smith to try to get the job done here. Smith has failed to make the Daytona 500 in each of the last 2 years, one with Front Row Motorsports 2 years ago, last year with the 66 team at MBM. And now he's back with Front Row trying to make the Daytona 500 in his 3rd attempt. Can he do so? Is the 3rd time going to be the charm? And while he is on track at the moment, Ryan Preece has been caught up with an interview with Jamie Little.
Five race down here last night. How about making it 3 for 3 tonight? What do you think?
Yeah, they usually say things come in threes. So, no, I mean, this Viva Towels, Kroger Ford Mustangs, really solid. And, you know, Derek and the boys are definitely riding high off that momentum last week. And I'm definitely a believer in momentum. So, we'll see if we can put her on the pole tonight or at least make it to the next round and try and have some good pit selection.
Top 10 advanced around.
They say qualifying doesn't matter at Daytona, but in the next-gen era where it may be a little bit harder to pass, especially when we get into a dual race tomorrow night, which is only 60 laps, you're probably going to want better track position at the front of the field to get the better finish for that race for when we have an even bigger field on Sunday for the Daytona 500. So to a certain extent, it matters. And obviously, if you're on the front row, you're locked into that spot no matter what happens, assuming you, of course, stay out of an incident and don't have any major mechanical failure in practice the next couple of days. So Chandler Smith was tracking in the red, and that was not a great lap at all for Chandler. 49.757. That is 13th out of 14 cars. And that is quite a bit off of his teammate Gillen, about 0.3 of a second off of him, as well as 4 positions in between. So Chandler Smith is going to have to race his way into the Daytona 500 tomorrow in the duels. Yikes. 3rd attempt at trying to make this race, and we'll see if he can get in. Carson Hocevar qualified top 10 in last year's Daytona 500, led some laps in the Clash a week ago as well, is now on the racetrack. Hocevar has not had great luck in the Great American Race. His best finish 30th, which was last season. He's had 2 prior starts in this event. His first year in this race, he ended up wrecking out in the first 4 laps. Pretty solid lap for Carson Hocevar all the way around 7th right now. Not as good as last year. I don't think that's going to hold for a top 10 spot, but I think it should hold for a top half of the field start in tomorrow's duel. Which, I mean, if you're in the top 20, you're going to be starting top 10 in your duel. 49.427, by the way, on that lap for Hocevar. And again, he was 7th. On to Kyle Busch, 2-time Cup Series champion. Longest winless streak of his Cup Series career, as he went winless for the first time in his full Cup Series career 2024. It again happened, unfortunately, last season in 2025. Is 2026 going to be the year Kyle Busch gets the 8 car back to victory lane? My notes, I accidentally have Tyler Reddick in the 8 for some reason. So a little bit of a typo there. I just thought I'd kind of throw that out there. I was well aware it was Kyle Busch. And RCR's had some speed. And it looks like Busch has some speed in qualifying also. 48.933 for Kyle Busch. A 183.925 mile per hour average. And he has the top time by over 1/10 of a second to that of Ryan Preece. That's the first sub-49 second lap time we've seen in single car qualifying tonight. And that is a lap that I think is going to have a great opportunity of holding for a top 10 spot, where he'll have a shot to re-qualify and go for the pole in round number 2. Great lap by Busch. So from a driver who has been full-time in the Cup Series, the longest of any active driver, to a guy who will be making his Cup Series full-time debut in the Daytona 500 this weekend, Connor Zilisch, fresh out of the Xfinity Series where he won double-digit races last season and now trying to take his way to the Cup side. He's made a handful of starts in his Cup career all last season, and he'll be making his Daytona 500 debut on Sunday. He's the only rookie that's locked into the race going into this weekend. He was 17th in practice earlier this morning, and as he rubs up his qualifying lap with Team Trackhouse of 49.291, that is a pretty solid lap for Zilisch so far, 5th place for the Phenom. And he's going to be fun to follow this season. He kind of gets the Rookie of the Year honors by default because he's the only full-time rookie this season, but I think by the end of the year, he's going to be more than worthy of it. Just have that feeling. I'm curious to see what the new chase format is. He going to be a driver who's going to be able to compete for a chase spot in his rookie season? Because we haven't seen that even through the playoff format years, that many rookies have been able to make their way into the 16-car field. He's definitely got the talent to do so. Aiden, welcome to the stream. No, Larson is not qualified yet. He is actually going out a little ways from now. Yeah, great lap by Zilisch to get up in the top 5 already. I don't know if that's going to hold with a 49.291 for a top 10, but it's a pretty good lap for the rookie. Zane Smith in the 38 car for Front Row Motorsports. Front Row has surprisingly been a lot slower in this year's qualifying for the Daytona 500. Smith, the fastest of them, jumps up to 5th with a 49.266. Best finish for Smith in the 500 2 different times, 13th. Noah Gregson standing with Jamie Little now.
Completely forgot about that rule, so that one's on me. So, luckily we have the duels. I feel like for the Daytona 500, it's such a long race. You could kind of start wherever. So, it is what it is. But yeah, I feel like an idiot for that. Put my hand up, but oh well, we got a race tomorrow to do. I'm done for that.
Well, see, oh, Mike, I'm hearing crew chiefs all warning their drivers. Noah got in trouble. Don't put your hand out.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah, we were talking about that at the start of the stream, actually. Can't put the hand on the window net to try to help the airflow. He did, and his lap was disallowed. Was originally a 49.504. That would have had him, it looks like, 15th out of 18 drivers so far, so he's only back 3 positions right now. Either way, he was going to be starting towards the tail in his duel, but again, that lap disallowed by Gregson. Got to read the rule book. John Hunter Nemechek in the 42 car is now on the racetrack for Legacy Motor Club. He's the last of the 3 drivers of that team to make a lap at qualifying. His best career finish last season, finished 5th in the Daytona 500. 5th, 7th, and 11th in all 3 career 500 starts for John Hunter. And he is the fastest of the Legacy Motor Club Toyotas, 49.214. It's a pretty good lap for that team. It's a little over a tenth faster than both Johnson and Jones. Quite the pickup with that in-house organization. And the 20th driver to make a lap in this year's qualifications for the Daytona 500 is our next open entry, BJ McLeod for Live Fast Motorsports, owner-driver, trying to make the field for this year's Great American Race. Best finish for McLeod in the 500 back in 2019 with Rick Ware Racing. He finished in the 19th place position. He's failed to make the last 2 Daytona 500s, but he has raced his way in before with Live Fast Motorsports, so very hit or miss. Probably not going to have the speed for the single car qualifying to get in tonight, but he showed some pretty decent speed in the dual race he was in last season. I'm not going to count him out for tomorrow. Florida native, home track, obviously right here at Daytona. Let's see where BJ puts it in single car qualifying first. All black unsponsored team for this weekend. Sure we'll have some sponsorship on that car if he can make the race on Sunday. At 50.011 for BJ McLeod, 18th out of 20 in qualifying so far. Our next open entry is up, and that would be J.J. Yaley in the 44 for New York Racing. Yaley's best career finish in the 500 is a 10th place finish back in 2013 with BK Racing. And he has failed to make the Daytona 500 in 5 starts in his Cup career. Most failed attempts to make the 500 of any of these open entries that is going to try to make this race this weekend. Those failed entries were in the last 2 years, 25 and 24. He also failed back in 2022, 2020, and 2012. Cars bounce so much. Yes, they are definitely riding on the asphalt. Not just the tires either. Scraping parts and pieces. And being in the nighttime, obviously you're going to see those sparks coming out from underneath the race car a lot more than what you would in the daylight. Sue Brown, thanks for tuning in. Sue and Tim picked the 24 for the win. Wow. 3 in a row. Only driver to ever win 3 consecutive Daytona 500s is Richard Petty, the king himself, who has 7 career Daytona 500 victories, so it'll definitely be a historic feat for Byron if he can get it done this weekend. Not many have won back-to-back 500s, let alone, obviously, just the one who has won 3 consecutive. And they have not come in dominating fashion, but Byron is a pretty successful drafting-style oval race himself. 3 wins at Atlanta on the new Atlanta. 3 at Daytona and then 2 on the new Atlanta. Got the Chef Boyardee car on the racetrack. A little bit of, ravioli action on the side of the 47 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. A bit of fun this weekend with that paint scheme. Stenhouse, a former Daytona 500 and pole sitting champion of this race. Won the pole back in 2020. It's his only front row start in this one. And obviously won the 2023 Daytona 500 just a couple years ago. 2017, he got his second career Cup win at the time in the summer race of that season. And we'll see what Stenhouse can do for qualifying. As for J.J. Yaley, by the way, his lap time is a 50.482. That was last of the 21 laps on the racetrack. And obviously not counting the disallowed lap of Gregson, who would be 22nd. And as for Stenhouse, who wrapped up a little bit ago, he is outside the top 10, 16th, 49.529 for Stenhouse. Anthony Alfredo, another open entry on the racetrack in the 62 Beard Motorsports. They've raced their way into the 500 together as a team before. They've also failed to make the 500 as a team driver / that 62 ride as well in recent years. So we'll see if they're going to be able to get it done. A DNQ last season in the 500 for Alfredo in the 62, and they raced their way in 2024 in the duels. In that 2024 Daytona 500, he finished 27th, best of his 3 500 starts. He was competent in practice earlier today. Definitely better than a lot of the other teams running part-time, like the 78, 66, and 44. Alfredo will be 15th on the leaderboard, 49.485. But that is not going to be quick enough to obviously compete with Heim and Allgaier right now, who are 3rd and 4th on the open entry list. There's only one more driver of the open entries to have to make a lap, and that is Corey LaJoie. So that means, with Corey Heim having the top qualifying time of the non-chartered entries, Corey Heim is locked into the Daytona 500 on speed. 49.138 on that lap for Heim. He's still in 3rd place. You know, and I wouldn't even say that he's locked in yet, because if Corey LaJoie gets his way into the top 10, don't they all have a chance to go for it again? I'm going to pump the brakes on that for a second. I want to see where Corey LaJoie qualifies first. Fox already had the graphic that he's locked into the show. But in the event that Heim, Allgaier, and LaJoie all qualify in the top 10, they would have to re-qualify again. So I'm going to pump the brakes on that. I know I was reading what was in front of me with Fox's graphics, but I don't think he's locked in yet. Now, if Corey LaJoie qualifies outside of the top 10, then both Heim and Allgaier are in, because they have the top times anyway, and nobody else will be in the top 10. But knowing the speed Ryan Preece put down, being in 2nd right now, I'm not going to doubt that LaJoie can qualify towards the top of the leaderboard, and that's going to be fun if we see 3 open entries in the top 10 in qualifying tonight, and they have to do it all over again. Novi Ranger, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, most entries of the next-gen era in the Daytona 500, or really any race for that matter. 45 entries this weekend. Hockey Beat, thanks for tuning in. How many open cars are going home? 4, but none today. They'll all have a chance to race their way in tomorrow in the duels, but 2 of them will get locked into the show of the 8 open entries. Not counting, of course, Jimmy Johnson, who has the provisional for this weekend. Qualifying coverage continues right here on KRC. We'll take our second break. You're listening live. Like, subscribe, and continue our full coverage. We're about halfway through round 1. All right. Yep, Jimmy Johnson has the provisional. Why would they have to requalify top 2 at speed get it? Because the top 10 re-qualify for the top 10 starting positions, 11th through 45th is going to be designated based off of round 1. But in Speedway qualifying, Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta, the top 10 re-qualify. So I would assume that in the event of Corey LaJoie qualifying in the top 10, they would all have to re-qualify, along with obviously the other 7 that would make the top 10. Fonda Miller, thanks for tuning in. Make it easy to follow, bud. Appreciate it. It's my job. Try to be as descriptive as possible. Michael McDowell, the 71 on the racetrack. Right around the bubble right now with Jimmy Johnson for that 10th and final spot to lock their way in. I don't think anywhere around 10th right now is going to be able to hold up with half the field still to qualify. It's over 20 cars this weekend. And Michael McDowell, as he wraps his lap up, does get inside the top 10, 7th. Had a big pickup off of turn 4. 49.280 for McDowell to solidify himself in the 7th spot. McDowell, a front row starter of the Daytona 500 in 2024, where he qualified 2nd, and he is the 2021 winner of this race. Corey LaJoie's best finish in the Daytona 500 is 4th in 2024. He has 4 career Daytona points-paying top 10 finishes, 2 of them in the Daytona 500, 2 in the summer event. Can LaJoie qualify his way in to the 500? He is racing for the first time ever in a Ford, in that number 99 specifically, at RFK Racing, a 4th entry for this weekend's Great American Race. LaJoie has made select Cup starts in each of the last 2 years. Benchmarker right now to beat both Heim and Allgaier is a 49.138 for Heim. Allgaier's got a 49.201. And again, if we do see more than 2 of those drivers in the top 10, those spots are not quite going to be locked up yet, as we will see the 2 fastest of the open entry times lock their way into the Great American Race. And as LaJoie wraps up his lap, he is going to be just behind both of them, 49.205. 5th place, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Heim, Allgaier, LaJoie. Those 3 open teams brought the speed in qualifying tonight. My goodness. I mean, we're past halfway through it, and they're all up in the top 5 right now. So 4 1,000ths of a second is the difference between Allgaier and LaJoie. I think there is still hope for LaJoie if somehow that time holds for a top 10 spot. I've seen teams celebrating, so it's kind of hard for me to tell. Like, if they all have to re-qualify, then, like, I don't know. Unless, like, they all feel confident that they're not going to hold in the top 10, which is very possible because we're only halfway through qualifying. That is crazy. 4 1,000ths of a second, the difference between Allgaier and LaJoie. And that is the final of the 8 open entries, was that 99 car. On to Tyler Reddick in the 45 for 2311 Racing. His teammate Corey Heim is currently in 3rd. Reddick, not a great lap. 21st, 49.609. That is crazy, the difference between himself and that 67 team. About a half a second of a difference between Reddick and Heim in qualifying. Even Riley Herbst was about 0.2 faster than Reddick. That 45 team, I think, just missed it. Reddick, a former dual race winner at Daytona. And he was runner-up in the 500 last year, finishing 2nd. It'll be his 8th career 500 start this weekend. Chase Briscoe's been caught up to with Regan Smith as he awaits his qualifying lap at Daytona.
Really getting it again this season. I don't know. We're going to find out. You know, I thought in practice our best first shot driver Toyota wasn't bad. Last year was certainly a surprise, I think, for all of us, really, in the Toyota team. So yeah, I think we've made a lot of improvements on our super speedway stuff. And yeah, I mean, we were on the front row in Talladega, our last super speedway race. I feel like we'll be in the mix, but you never know until we get going here. So yeah, hopefully we can. It was pretty special last year, just leading the field to green, and yeah, we'll see if we can do it again. Good luck in the moment.
Austin Dillon.
2018 Daytona 500 winner Austin Dillon on the racetrack. He'll be making his 14th start in the Great American Race. Just locked himself up into the top 5 for right now. 4th place, 49.185. That does bump Allgaier and LaJoie down a spot. Corey Heim remains in 3rd. Couple positions of separation now between those top 3 of the open entry teams. Just over 2.5 tenths off of Kyle Busch, his teammate, who currently has the top time. But between both of the RCR entries for this week's Daytona 500, pretty solid qualifying efforts on both parts. On to Josh Berry and the Wood Brothers Ford, the number 21, who got his first career win with that team last season at Las Vegas. It was the 101st career win for the Wood Brothers as an organization at the NASCAR Cup Series rank. And with the Fords having the speed in last year's qualifications on super speedways, I'm curious to see what kind of speed Josh Berry has here, but he's struggling right now to compete even for 10th with that of Connor Zilisch. It just doesn't seem like the Fords outside of the lone RFK Ford of Ryan Preece has speed to compete for a pole shot. Corey LaJoie had decent pace. Obviously, he's in 6th right now, but Josh Berry is not even going to make his way in the top 10. 49.354, 13th for Berry. Wow. And on to the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series champion, Chase Elliott. Reigning, defending, most popular driver. For nearly a decade now, 9 consecutive years he has been able to win that award. He was a runner-up in the 2021 Great American Race. He'll be making his 11th start in this event. 2 career top 10s, though, in the 10 starts prior in the Daytona 500, so maybe not the best racetrack for him statistically. But Hendrick Motorsports has the speed. They've obviously won the last 2 with William Byron. If you're in a Hendrick Chevy at any racetrack, you pretty much have a shot. Elliott had a couple of wins last year, including an exhibition race win at the Clash. He's got great separation between himself and Connor Zilisch, and is this going to be a return to form for Hendrick Motorsports in competing for maybe a pole spot in the Daytona 500? We'll have to see. Great lap by Elliott, 4th, 49.169. And that bumps Allgaier and LaJoie down even more. And the likelihood of LaJoie staying inside the top 10 to have another shot here is looking very slim. Obviously 3 spots away from the cut. And on to Chase Elliott's teammate, William Byron, who I mentioned already has won the last 2 Daytona 500s. He'll be going for a 3rd consecutive to match Richard Petty is the only driver to win 3 consecutive Daytona 500s. He also has a dual race win in 2018 at Daytona, along with those 3 points-paying victories. His first career win in 2020 in the last 2 500s, 2 wins at the new Atlanta. He's pretty good drafting oval racer, I will say. I'm sure he will be in competition to go for another race win here this weekend and try to make history. The only other driver in the field who has 3 Daytona 500 victories is Denny Hamlin, who got his wins in 2016, 19, and 20. Not as fast in qualifying for Byron to that of his teammate, Chase Elliott. He's barely going to get his way up inside the top. Nope, not quite. Never mind. 2 1/1000ths of a second. He lost time right at the end. He was tracking barely in the green by a couple thousandths of a second, and as he got into the tri-oval, that time fell away just a bit, and by 2 1/1000ths of a second, Byron misses out on the top 10 with a 49.282. So he's at 11th. Brad Keselowski with a cane, walking with Jamie Little.
Well, skiing, he emphasized, but slipped getting out of the vehicle and broke his femur right up near the hip. Underwent surgery. He's been rehabbing ever since, and he's ready to go. Shane Van Gisbergen putting a number on.
Well, Jamie Little was standing next to Brad Keselowski. I thought we were going to get an interview there, but we did not. Shane Van Gisbergen on the racetrack, as you just heard from Mike Joy there in the background. 5 wins last season, all on road courses. 6 career cup wins, all on road or street courses. Still in search for his first oval victory, but he did start running a lot more consistent on ovals last year. He was actually leading laps in the summer Daytona and fall Talladega race at various times. Curious to see what he does in his second career Daytona 500 this weekend. 49.527 for SVG as he qualifies 23rd. It's a little bit behind on speed in practice. Really, Trackhouse as a whole right now struggling in qualifying. Zilich in 12th, although pretty good run for the rookie, and SVG about 10 spots behind that. And another Trackhouse Racing Chevrolet, Ross Chastain, going to be up next, the Watermelon Man from Florida himself. He's not just the Watermelon Man, he's the Florida Watermelon Man, and this weekend supporting the Busch Light paint scheme. Joey shines bright on the racetrack, especially under the lights here at Daytona. 2021, he had his career best finish in the Daytona 500, where he finished in 7th. And he has 3 career top 10s in the Great American Race. He'll be looking for number 4 this weekend. Honey Badger, thanks for tuning in. No actual broadcast here. Live commentary, yes. Live footage, no. I can't for copyright reasons on YouTube. I cannot show the actual coverage. Mark DeMars, thanks for tuning in. Good to see you again as well. Ross Chastain is not going to qualify his way in on the top 10 side of things here. He's going to be a little bit in front of his teammate SVG, but behind his other teammate Connor Zilich. 21st for Chastain in qualifying with a 49.483. And here is Brad Keselowski now standing with Jamie Little.
How is the pain? And how are you dealing with this? These are the easiest things to climb in and out of.
You know, it's better to be in at home. There was a long period of time where I didn't think it was going to happen, where I was going to get to run. So now that I'm here, I'm just, thrilled to be here, Jamie. But there's work to do, and I think our Castro Ford is pretty fast. I don't know if we can get in the top 10, but it's going to be really close, and I look forward to seeing what we can run.
Good to see you out here.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, Brad had an injury back in 2011.
Marianne, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, broken femur in a skiing accident earlier in the winter, a couple months ago, back in late December for Brad Keselowski. That's why he's walking around with a cane, and we'll see. RFK's got some speed here in qualifying, so it's going to be interesting to see what Brad Keselowski can do behind the wheel. Cody Ware on the racetrack for Rick Ware Racing is actually going to make a pretty competent lap time. 15th with a 49.349. That's about as fast as I've seen a Rick Ware Racing car in qualifying at Daytona, maybe ever. Top 15 for Cody Ware. Great run for that team. Another Ford is now going to be Chris Buescher for RFK. I mentioned about Priest having a great lap time. Currently, Ryan Priest is second on the qualifying time sheet. And as we go to Chris Buescher, we'll see what he can do. Going back to Cody Ware quickly, because I do have him in my notes. His best finish in the Daytona 500 was 17th in 2022. He's had 2 top 10s in his last 3 summer starts at Daytona, and obviously a great qualifying effort again for him. As for Chris Buescher, who is just finishing up his qualifying lap, his career best finish in the Daytona 500 is 3rd back in 2020. 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s in his Daytona 500 history. He is a summer winner of 2023, and he won the dual race back in 2022. Busher, fourth, 49.168. Good top 5 run. That bumps Allgaier LaJoie back to 7th and 8th place right now. If they make it in the top 10, again, the top 10 qualifiers will re-qualify for a shot at the front row in the Daytona 500. So, crazy that there are 3 open entries that are up there, but that is worth note-taking again here as we're getting towards the back half of qualifying now, just 11 drivers to go. Chase Briscoe is now going to be on track next. Full screen commercial break first on FS1. Briscoe, the defending pole sitter of the Daytona 500 last season. Had the most poles in general in the NASCAR Cup Series last year, including all 4 of the Crown Jewel events. 3 career top 10 finishes and 5 career starts in the Daytona 500. His best was in 2022, where he finished 3rd. So we'll see what Chase Briscoe can do here shortly. Made the championship 4 last year in his debut season with Joe Gibbs Racing also. All right. We've got still over 250 people in the chat. Greatly appreciate you all tuning in here tonight. We'll be back again at 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow for the dual races at Daytona, and obviously throughout the rest of the weekend leading up to the Daytona 500 for Truck, O'Reilly, ARCA, and Cup Series racing all right here. Hit the like button if you haven't yet. Subscribe for more content. We'll continue our coverage here live. 11 drivers to go in round 1 qualifying. So again, 11 drivers of the 45 entries for this year's Daytona 500 still to go. Delbert Wilson, thanks for tuning in. Do anything interesting this last winter? I've done a lot of stuff this winter. Maybe more, though, than I've done in recent winters. Went to another Detroit Red Wings game. I live about an hour and 15 minutes from Detroit, so representing my hockey team as usual. I like to watch some hockey. I still watch a lot during the week, even during the racing season, because there's no racing going on during the week for me to watch on the NASCAR realm side of things. But it's a lot harder to kind of keep up on the weekends now that we're in this time of the year. But yeah, I love going to games, like find a Sunday afternoon game or something. While obviously got no racing to watch, so yeah, that was a lot of fun. Saw them face the Blue Jackets. They had an overtime win, came back. They were down 3-1, ended up winning 4-3 in OT. And I went to a Pistons and Cavs game in Cleveland just a few weeks ago. That was my first NBA game I've been to since pre-COVID. So, yeah, long time coming. Pistons doing very good this year as well. So, keeping an eye out on them. Enough about me. Here's Jeff Gordon with Larry McReynolds.
Maybe not tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we knew Busch was strong in practice, and he backed that up. That the 19 was pretty good. When we looked at trying to evaluate some single car runs, the 19 was pretty good. So curious to see what he runs. But Chase put up a nice lap there, and we got another round here. So hopefully he can stay in there, and we'll see what happens. But as you pointed out, we've done a lot better in results on Sunday or Monday or whenever we run this race when we don't always fall up on that front row. So we might take that too.
Yeah, we know they're greedy. The guy driving the 24 now going for 3 in a row.
How about that? There's a fellow who knows his way to victory lane here. One of NASCAR's all-time greats.
Yes. All right, as for Chase Briscoe in the 19, he is going to bump his way into the top 10 second with a 49.034, and that's a really fast lap that's going to be able to at least lock him into the top 10. And that in return bumps Corey LaJoie now down to 9th. So LaJoie falls out of the top 10. Then that will mean that Corey Heim and Justin Allgaier will officially be locked into the Daytona 500 on qualifying speed because they will not be having to compete with a third open entry in round 2. I think Corey Heim can still make another run at the pole. I don't think that Allgaier and LaJoie are going to be able to hold on for a top 10 qualifying effort. But obviously great showings and speeds for teams that don't run every week. That's a fantastic job. So again, Briscoe was second. Kyle Busch still the top time overall with a 48.933 so far. Ty Gibbs is now on the racetrack. Another Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota, back-to-back for them. Briscoe, then Gibbs. Yeah, the Grand Rapids Griffins are having a good season, too. Best finish for Gibbs in the 500, 16th last season. Finished 8th and 5th in the summer races in each of the last 2 years. So not as much luck for Gibbs in the Daytona 500, but in the summer race, pretty solid. This will be his 4th full-time Cup season, still in search for his first career win. He's had just over 100 career Cup starts, and he's tracking in the green to try to get his way up into the top 10. He's not going to be anywhere near where his teammate Chase Briscoe is, but he will bump his way in, and he will be 7th right now. So Corey LaJoie now on the bubble to try to make it into the top 10 in pole qualifying for the Daytona 500. 49.184 the lap time for Gibbs. Ryan Blaney, our first of 3 Penske Fords on the racetrack, the 37th driver to make a lap in qualifying today. 2-time runner-up of the Daytona 500 is Blaney in 2017 and 2020. He has 3 top 5s and 6 top 10s in his last 9 Daytona 500s, the most top 10s of any driver in that stretch. He's a 2018 dual winner. He's a 2-time summer winner in 21 and 25. He's won here before 3 times, but never in the Great American Race. He's been close. He's had great finishes. He's probably been the driver who's been knocking on the doorstep of winning this race for the first time more often in recent years than any other. Can he get it done this year? We know Penske's had a stranglehold on super speedways with the next-gen car. Winning last year with Austin Cindric in the spring Talladega race. Blaney rounding his way through the tri-oval. He is not going to qualify in the top 10. So he's going to be starting about mid-pack. And tomorrow's duel, 13th, 49.269. So LaJoie, for now, holds on to his top 10 still. Not sure how much longer he's going to be able to try to survive. Still have 8 drivers to go. You had Kyle Larson on track right now for Hendrick Motorsports. One of the 2 Hendrick Chevys who have been on track right now are in the top 10. That one is Elliott in 6th. Byron is currently in 15th. So what end of the spectrum is Kyle Larson going to fall on here? Larson's best career finish in the Daytona 500, 7 2 different times. He has 4 career top 10s in the Daytona 500, though none of which have been in the next-gen era. Larson, 4th, fastest of the Hendrick Chevys so far, 49.121 for Kyle Larson. That is a pretty competent lap. You're definitely going to have to be in the 49.1s if you're going to want a shot to go for the pole. Corey LaJoie has been bumped from the top 10, so it is going to be Justin Allgaier and Corey Heim officially now. Okay, so now they're showing. I was right. I was right, by the way. But the way Fox threw the graphics on way too early for Corey Heim and Justin Allgaier being locked into the show. I don't think they were expecting Corey LaJoie's lap time to hold up as long in the top 10 as it did. But now they're celebrating legitimately because they've made their way in. So it is official now that both Corey Heim and Justin Allgaier are in the Daytona 500 based off of qualifying speed. Only 7 drivers to go in qualifying by the time Corey LaJoie had been knocked out. Knocked out of the top 10. He'll have to race his way in tomorrow. And again, that margin was about 4 1,000ths of a second between Allgaier and LaJoie for that final transfer spot based off of single car qualifying. So as far as Joey Logano on the racetrack now, he's the 2015 Daytona 500 winner. He's qualified in the top 10 in all but one of the next-gen points-paying races at Daytona, including a pole in the 500 in 2024, a great lap here in 2025. Not as good as what we saw last year. 8th right now for Logano, 49.172. We'll have to see if that holds for a top 10 spot. Much better than his teammate Ryan Blaney. A little over a 10th faster. And his teammate Austin Cindric has not made a lap yet. And Cindric was fastest of any in practice earlier. All right. Might get a word with Dale Jr. here soon. Not going to have to race their way in at Daytona like they did last year with Allgaier. It is going to be a qualifying in time for Dale Jr. and Junior Motorsports. So they're in the race as an open entry 2 years in a row. Christopher Bell, who has a best finish of 3rd 2 times in the next-gen era, in fact, in the Daytona 500, 2023 and 2024. Here's an interesting stat. He's finished in the top 3 in 6 races at Daytona. If you count the duels and the 2 points-paying races, the 500 and then the 400 in the summer race. So again, top 3 in 6 races since the duels of 2021. It's been very underrated when it comes to performing well here. He finally got his first drafting oval win in the spring race at Atlanta last season. He's finished in the top 5 in 4 of the last 5 dual races as well. He's going to be a threat to win tomorrow night, I'm sure. Maybe a threat for the 500 as well. Not as good on the qualifying sheet as what his teammate Chase Briscoe and Ty Gibbs were able to do, as Bell is going to time in. Looks like Kelly and Dale Earnhardt getting caught up with Regan Smith.
What's worse, driver or owner coming down to Daytona?
Oh, I don't know. This is a lot of fun either way, man. It's such a great sport. So much fun to be a part of it. It's awesome to be able to come down here and try to make your way in. It is stressful, but that's the best part about it.
All right, congratulations, guys. Thanks.
They are in the 500 Sunday.
So I mentioned about Bell's lap time not being quite as good and finally found him on the leaderboard. He was just outside the top 10, 11th place, 49.197, so barely missing out on a transfer spot to go for the pole here tonight. Austin Cindric is on the racetrack as the 3rd and final Penske driver. Cindric is the 2022 winner of the Daytona 500. He has 2 top 10 finishes in his 5 career starts in the Great American Race. Won last year in the Spring Talladega race as well, so he's got 2 drafting oval wins. And he is going to be outside the top 10 along with his teammate Ryan Blaney right now. 15th, 49.248 for Cindric. So very shocking to see Ford lacking speed and qualifying on a drafting oval with this next-gen car. I know they didn't get the pole last year, but they still dominated for the most part as far as filling out the top 10 in the running order. And here this season, outside of Priest, Buescher, and Logano, they're the only ones in. And Penske, who has been faster than RFK when it comes to qualifying on these drafting ovals, not this time around. Latoya Smith, thanks for tuning in. Bubba Wallace on the racetrack in the 2311 number 23 Toyota. He's a 2-time runner-up in the Daytona 500, 2018 and 2022. And he has 2 top 5s in the 4 next-gen races here as well. So 3 career top 5s for Bubba in the 500, all since 2018. The 2018 season, he was a rookie in this race. Full-time in Cup. Not going to be able to bump his way into the top 10. He's much faster than his teammate Tyler Reddick and Riley Herbst, but nowhere near the speed of Corey Heim. And I'm just shocked that Corey Heim's in the top 5 in qualifying while the other 3 full-time legacy cars are outside the top 10. They definitely wanted to make sure they qualified in without having to race their way in tomorrow. That's for certain. Not to mention, Heim was the very first car on the racetrack, so he's had the longest cool-down period between round 1 and round 2, assuming he makes it to the second round, which I think he's actually locked in now. because we don't have more than 5 drivers left. So Bubba Wallace was 27th with a 49.432. That's 1 spot ahead of his teammate Herbst. And then Tyler Reddick back in 37th right now in qualifying here at Daytona. So not a great day for 2311 unless your name's Corey Heim. 3 drivers to go in qualifying. Brad Keselowski, Alex Bowman, and Denny Hamlin. Keselowski, who has not yet won the Daytona 500 in his long time in the NASCAR Cup Series, will be making his 17th Daytona 500 start, this time with a broken leg. He ended up fracturing his femur in a skiing accident just 2 months ago. And during the offseason, a quick enough recovery to get him in the race car after missing the Clash a week ago. Set out the exhibition race to get here for the points pain and the big one, if you will, at Daytona. Best career finish for Brad is 3rd in 2014 in the Daytona 500. He is a former summer race winner. He has 2 top 5 finishes and 3 top 10s in those 17 career 500 starts. So this race has not gone great for him, despite being a very accomplished drafting track racer. I mentioned the 1 Daytona win and the summer race in his career. He's a 6-time Talladega winner also. Finished 2nd, I believe, twice at Atlanta on the new configuration also. So not quite as good of a lap for Keselowski compared to his 2 teammates of Preece and Buescher, who are in the top 10. 16th for Brad K, 49.252. It's insane. A guy with a broken leg is outqualified more than half the field at Daytona. That's a pretty good accomplishment for Brad Keselowski in and of itself. Alex Bowman on the racetrack has 6 career front row starts in the Daytona 500. 3 of those are poles, most of any driver in both categories that will be in the field this weekend. He is a former runner-up of this race in 2024 to his teammate William Byron, where that final lap ended under caution, was a nose behind him from winning that Daytona 500. Can Bowman get some redemption here this weekend? So far, so good for Alex Bowman. He's going to lock his way into round 2 qualifying, 4th in round 1 with a 49.117. So Busch, Briscoe, Preece, Bowman, Larson, Heim, Buescher, Elliott, and Logano are all locked in. 1 driver to go in round 1 qualifying. That is Denny Hamlin. And after Hamlin, we will go into round 2. It'll be Hamlin versus Gibbs, his teammate, for that final transfer spot. Top 10 will re-qualify for the front row, and 11th through 45th will be locked into their starting positions for tomorrow night's duels. Obviously, at the end of the stream, we'll go over all the starting positions for both dual races tomorrow. Is Kyle Busch carrying an onboard camera? I'm not sure if he was for qualifying or not, to be completely honest. I know they all carry them during the races now. But I don't know about single car qualifying. All right, we'll see what Denny Hamlin's got. 3-time Daytona 500 winner, 2016, 19, and 2020. This will be his 21st Daytona 500. Though his best finish in the next-gen era is 17th in 2023. All those wins coming with the Gen 6 car, obviously. And does Denny get his way up into the top 10? He does. Great lap by Hamlin, 49.106, 4th place. And that will bump Ty Gibbs. All right, so I'll take a picture because this is going to disappear on my end shortly. And then I'll go through the round 1 qualifying order very shortly. All right. So round 1 qualifying in the books. Kyle Busch, fastest time in round 1. We'll see if he can replicate that for round 2. 48.933. He was the only sub 49-second lap time. So Busch is the top time for round 1, but again, we will invert the order. So Busch will be the last driver to go out in round 2, and the first driver to go out in round 2 will be Joey Logano, who is 10th. Your drivers advancing into the final round of qualifying will be Kyle Busch, Chase Briscoe, first and second, Ryan Preece third, Denny Hamlin fourth, then Alex Bowman fifth, Kyle Larson sixth, Corey Heim seventh, Chris Buescher eighth, Chase Elliott ninth, and Joey Logano 10th. Now the starting orders for the dual races I will have in full at the end of the stream once we get the qualifying order in. But for right now, your positions 11 through 45 that are locked in. Ty Gibbs was 11th, Austin Dillon 12th, Christopher Bell in 13th, sorry, not Buescher, Bell was 13th, Justin Allgaier 14th, and Allgaier did qualify his way in on time by 4/1000ths of a second over Corey LaJoie. Corey Heim also locked his way in, though he still has a shot to go for the pole as he made it to round 2. Corey LaJoie right there behind Allgaier again, 4/1000ths of a second. The difference between LaJoie locking his way in tonight and having to race his way in tomorrow. So LaJoie 15th in qualifying today, Jonathan Nemechek 16th, Austin Cindric 17th, Brad Keselowski 18th, Zane Smith 19th, Ryan Blaney 20th, Michael McDowell 21st, William Byron 22nd, Connor Zilic 23rd, Cole Custer 24th, Eric Jones 25th, Cody Ware 26th, Josh Berry 27th, Jimmy Johnson 28th, Carson Hocevar 29th, Bubba Wallace 30th, Riley Herbst 31st, AJ Allmendinger 32nd, Todd Gillen 33rd, 34th, Ross Chastain, Anthony Alfredo in 35th, 36th was Ty Dillon, then Shane Van Gisbergen in 37th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 38th, Daniel Suarez 39th, Tyler Reddick all the way back at 40th, Chandler Smith in 41st, BJ McLeod 42nd, Casey Mears 43rd, JJ Haley 44th, and Noah Gragson 45th. His lap was disallowed as he had his hand on the window net, which is a rule in NASCAR that you cannot do that anymore. And he was the only one that did it. So, broke the rules. Therefore, last for Gragson in qualifying today. All right. Round 1, single car qualifying in the books. Round 2 will be coming up shortly. You're listening live on KRC. We've already hit our like goal of 100 likes on the stream. Greatly appreciate that, everyone. Still be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more content. We've got more action coming for you over the next 30 minutes or so. All right. Take Busch and Hamlin for the front row. Well, here is Kyle Busch with Regan Smith right now.
First round, you got a 10th to spare right now to second place. Is it going to be enough to go do it again?
I would certainly hope so. You know, everybody's been working really hard this offseason with Jim Pullman coming on board and joining our Zone Chevrolet team. So really looking forward to qualifying. I mean, normally you don't look forward to qualifying, but hey, we're right there. We got one more run to make in order to sit on the pole. And I have one super speedway pole in my career, and it was here in Daytona. It was for the summer race. So it'd be nice to score another one, especially for the Daytona 500.
Good luck in qualifying. Second round of qualifying. Thanks.
All right, 10 drivers are locked into the top 10 starting spots for the Daytona 500. But which position will they occupy? We're about to find out with final round qualifying next.
All righty. A little bit of a cool down period on engines between round 1 and round 2. So the inside of row number 1, I should say the odd numbers in qualifying today make up dual race number 1. Dual race number 2 is going to be the inside. Let me repeat that. I messed that up bad. Inside of row number 1. Let me rephrase that a third time. I'm tired. Odd numbers. Odd numbers will be dual race number 1. Even numbers will be dual race number 2. So that will set up the inside row for the Daytona 500, and dual 1, dual 2 will set up the outside. The only positions that are locked up tonight are the front row, and the top 10 positions will get to requalify for that in a matter of moments. I made that a lot harder to try to talk through than what it was supposed to. I apologize for that. I've expressed myself a couple of times throughout the night perfectly, and that time I just kind of, you can tell fatigue is setting in. Not because of the stream. I've just been up. I had to work a full shift today, so I've been up since very, very early in the morning. Loy Allen 2.0, maybe. That's what Corey Heim's trying to do. First career Daytona 500. Can he sit the pole? I'm curious to see with rubber on the racetrack now, more than what we would have had for just practice way back in the morning. I'm sure the track was swept off well before qualifying and most of that rubber was gone, as we had about 7 hours or so in between practice and qualifying today. William Walton Jr. qualifying is not in the books yet. Round 2 about to begin. Kyle Busch had the top time in round 1, though. Just waiting on round 2 to get going. Allgaier will not re-qualify, neither does LaJoie. So Justin Allgaier and Corey Heim are the open entries that lock their way into the field for tonight's qualifying portion of the Daytona 500. 2 more of the open entries will race their way into the 500 tomorrow. One in dual race number 1, the top finisher of the open entries in that dual race, and the top finisher of the open entries in dual race number 2 will end up in the Daytona 500 as well. 4 1,000ths of a second, the difference between Allgaier and LaJoie. And the difference between 10th and 11th to get into this final round of qualifying, Joey Logano at a 49.172 to Ty Gibbs's 49.184, about a 1/1200th of a second difference. "45 drivers have made a qualifying lap, and only 10 get to go a second time. For a shot at history and going for the Daytona 500 pole, some of which their first time ever. Booty Barker crew chiefing on Corey Heim as they try to go for the pole.
Put a lot of work in. Now, 2311, appreciate Gibbs Hill, appreciate TRD. Takes a lot of effort to lay a lap down here. You know all about it. Yeah, I think the only concern, he was the first car to go out in that first round, and everything has really cooled down. That was a long time ago.
So, Larry, what are the pros and cons? We'll get to this after the break of going early in the first round.
I like how Mike Joy was asking Larry McReynolds a question, and then Fox execs are like, "No, we gotta go to break." Here we go again. Yep, top 10 re-qualifying for the front row. So the drivers in the top 10, the only ones who have ever scored a pole in the Daytona 500 are Chase Briscoe, which was last season, Joey Logano in 2024. Briscoe was second in round 1. Logano was 10th. Chase Elliott has 2 poles in the 500, 2016, 2017. He was 9th in round 1. Alex Bowman, his 3 poles, and Larson had 1 in 2022. So half of the top 10 have had a pole in the Daytona 500 before, and half have not. Some that have not include Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Preece, Corey Heim, who will be making his first Daytona 500 start this weekend, and Chris Buescher. So there's definitely some interesting stories behind some of those drivers. Busch, obviously, 21 Daytona 500s. Has never scored a pole in this race. Denny Hamlin, just as many starts as Kyle Busch, 21. In the Daytona 500, this is his 21st. Same for Busch. 21st 500 for both drivers, and neither one of them have had a pole. Now, Hamlin does have a front row start in this race, but he does not have a pole. And Busch has qualified on the pole for the summer race at Daytona, but never the 500. All right. So the longest cooldown period of time, obviously, Corey Haim, who was the very first car on the racetrack. They've taken 3 commercial breaks, by the way, since the end of round 1. They just came back from break to go to another break again. It's really funny because Mike Joy was trying to ask Larry McReynolds a question before they cut the break the first time, and now they've cut the break again since then without being able to ask him the question. I'm kind of curious if they're even going to ask him. Right now, I've got Arby's curly fries and mozzarella sticks on my big screen. Guess we'll take a quick break of our own, you know? There's nothing going on right now. I wonder if they end up running these 10 straight through or not. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they'll run the first 5 and then they'll have a break in between, and sometimes they'll just run all 10 of them consecutively. We've had multi-round qualifying at Daytona for quite some time. I think we've been doing it ever since they had group qualifying back in, gosh, when did they start that? 2018? My 32-ounce cup of water is now finished. Got to stay hydrated, keep my voice throughout the night. So again, descending order in which they will qualify for this final round. So the first driver to go out is going to be Joey Logano, and then Chase Elliott. Chris Buescher will be 3rd. Corey Haim 4th. Kyle Larson will be the first 5 on the racetrack. The second 5 would be Alex Bowman, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Preece, Chase Briscoe, and then Kyle Busch. So Busch will be last. Going to refresh the page and see if our final round order is going to be updated at all on NASCAR.com via the raw feed, and it is. Our order is not correct. It's kind of inverse to how they're going to go, but cars, paint schemes for the race. Anybody's favorite? Honestly, I really like the white Ross Chastain Busch scheme. That's probably my favorite that I've seen so far this weekend. The only thing is in the daylight of the 500, I don't think it's going to shine as well as it is under the lights tonight and in the duels tomorrow. But that might be my favorite. The Busch schemes, I mean, they've always done a great job with those schemes. Always. We've more than hit our like goal. We are at 112 likes on stream so far. Greatly appreciate that, everybody. We'll see if we can get that number close to 150 by the end of it. That's what I usually aim for the live commentary streams for the Cup races, and this is qualifying, so greatly appreciate it. I can tell that a lot of you are anticipating this Daytona 500 coming up this weekend. That's what that tells me. We are all eager. First, we got to set the front row. And tomorrow we set the rest of the field starting lineup and lock in our final couple spots. Joey Logano on racetrack. Sets a lap time of a 49.275. And obviously he is first of our 10 qualifiers. So again, 49.275 for Logano. And that was a drop off from where he was in round 1. I believe everybody in the first round ran a sub 49.2. So Logano dropped off back to a 49.275. Now, he did run late in that first round, and being the first car out for round 2 probably didn't help him. You want a little bit of a cool down period, but you don't want as much as, say, what a Corey Heim had, where he was the first one out, and now he's going to be one of the last, obviously, with being 7th at the end of the first round. Two-time Daytona 500 pole sitter Chase Elliott on the racetrack. 3 of the 4 Hendrick Chevys are in it. The only one not is the reigning defending winner of this race of the last 2 seasons, William Byron. Chase Elliott tracking in the green to that of Joey Logano. He had a bit more of a cool-down period. Still running in the back half of single-car qualifying in round 1. So much fun. Thanks for tuning in. NASCAR withdrawals. Yes, that's why everybody is tuning back in. Our withdrawals are no longer. We've got cars on the track every day between today and Sunday. That's fantastic to hear as a racing fan. So Chase Elliott going to be the top time of our first 2 qualifiers here, a 49.220. And that was about 5,500ths faster than Logano, but also a fall off from round 1. So Elliott and Logano have both fallen off from their round 1 lap times. On to Chris Buescher in the 17, who will be going for his first attempt at a front row start in the Daytona 500. Bottoming out right on that yellow line was Chase Elliott through turns 1 and 2. Trying to get as low as he could. Maybe dragging the splitter a little too much. Pete Creamer, thanks for tuning in. Brody Stanfield, thanks for tuning in. Cool to see Rowdy Busch on the pole. And round 1. Not solidified yet. So far, so good. He was the only driver to run a sub 49-second lap time. So it will be interesting to see if he's going to be able to get it done. He was in the front half of qualifying too, so that time held for quite a while. Chris Buescher also pacing faster than the Chase Elliott Ghost car that they're showing on screen, and Buescher will pick up from where Elliott and Logano were, but he'll fall off of his round 1 time as well, 49.184. So each of the 3 drivers who have gone out for qualifying so far have fallen off from the round 1 time, but Buescher has fallen off the least amount, and that has him at the top. Just over 3.5 hundredths of a second. So Corey Heim, the only open entry who had made his way in from round 1 to round 2, making his Daytona 500 debut this weekend. It will be just his 8th career Cup start. If he goes out here and has a good finish in the race, I'd like to see them try to put a full schedule together, even as an open ride, because I think he is a driver who can underratedly compete for a spot in the chase. He had a top 10 at Bristol last year. He only ran 4 races in the Cup Series on a part-time basis, dominated the Truck Series, winning over 10 races and a championship. And right now, he's pacing to be the top spot in Daytona 500 qualifying. He's picking up a little bit off turn 4. He was already in the green. 49.148 for Corey Heim. That was very similar to what he ran in round 1, and maybe the long cool-off period actually helped him more than the shorter period of cool-off that the 17-9 and the 22 teams had. So Corey Heim is currently on the pole for the 500 as we have got quicker with every car that has gone out in final round qualifying so far. $16 poles in the Daytona 500 for Rick Hendrick, most all time of any owner. He's got 3 cars in the final 6 to go out and try to get him another one. He's locked out the front row numerous times in the last couple of decades, and Kyle Larson one of which to get a pole and an outside front row start in this race. And he will be the first driver to not be as quick as the driver before him. By a tenth of a second, Corey Heim holds on. 49.158 on the lap time for Larson, 183.083 mile per hour average. All right, 5 to go. Corey Heim, the rookie, is so far on the pole. I don't know that an open entry has ever qualified on the pole for the Daytona 500. Under the current charter system, I know it's definitely not happened. I don't know, the top 35 rule, maybe something else. I know Loy Allen was a rookie that qualified on the pole in the 500 back in, I think it was, 1994? Where that happened? All right, so again, time to beat, 49.148 for Corey Heim. Alex Bowman on the track trying to get his 4th career pole in the 500. That would match Bill Elliott, Cale Yarborough, and Buddy Baker for the most all-time. Can we see history? He's tracking in the green on the start of his lap. Fell off just a little bit too much, though, out of turn 2 down the back straightaway. That's what bit him the most, and by 4/1000ths of a second, Corey Heim continues to hold on. These last 4 are going to be really tough to hold off. They have been the cream of the crop in the field in qualifying today. Obviously, they were the top 4 in round 1, but if you look at last season, Briscoe and Hamlin qualified on the front row 5 times. Each of those drivers had a front row start in the 10 playoff races. Together, they swept the front row in 3 of those 10 races. And here they are in the top 4. Denny Hamlin trying to go for his first career pole in the Daytona 500. So by 4/1000ths of a second, again, Bowman does not get the top spot. He is on the front row currently. Can Corey Heim survive? The first driver to make a lap in qualifying today might get the pole. How about that? You don't see that on most racetracks. Usually it's a disadvantage, but here at Daytona, maybe not the disadvantage necessary. Held on for a top 10, got a shot to requalify, and here we go. So Hamlin on the racetrack, 3-time 500 winner. He has started on the front row once in his Cup career, but never a pole. He is going to get the top time so far with a 49.1 flat. That was a pickup, I believe, from where he had back in round 1. 183.299 mile per hour average. Our leaderboard, by the way, is not accurate by way of lap time, as you see on screen, but Denny Hamlin is the fastest. So Hamlin would be first, Heim is second, and then descending order after that, Bowman would be third of the drivers who have gone so far, Larson fourth, Buescher fifth, Elliott sixth, and Logano seventh. He could still go for a front row start, though, with 3 drivers left. Toyota's showing speed for the 2nd consecutive year in the Daytona 500. 1 for 23.11, 2 for JGR. Briscoe will still have to go in a little bit. Right now it is Ryan Preece. So Preece in the 60 after winning the Clash a week ago. What riding momentum high would it be for him to not only win the exhibition race to start the year, but if he can get this car in the front row for the 500 as well? Austin Sullivan, thanks for tuning in. As well as many others, maybe just tuning in for the first time. Late in pole qualifying. Preece to the top of the leaderboard, 49.061 with a 183.445 mile per hour average, a pickup from his round 1 time. So Preece is now on the pole for the 500. Hamlin is currently outside of row 1 with 2 drivers to go. Chase Briscoe, then Kyle Busch. Busch had the only sub 49 second lap time in round 1. It's a pretty healthy margin that Priest was able to beat out Hamlin by 39 hundredths of a second. It seems like there's been a pickup off of turn 4, probably a tailwind on the front stretch and a headwind on the back straightaway, because it seems like teams tend to lose time off of turn 2 compared to the ghost car that they're showing on screen. Is Briscoe's pickup off turn 4 going to be enough? Top his teammate Hamlin for the front row and Priest for the top spot. Briscoe trying to get back-to-back Daytona 500 poles. He had 7 poles last season. And this year, he's going for one in the first race again. 49.023. A 183.587 mile per hour average for Briscoe. He is now on the top with one driver to go. So Briscoe had a pickup from round 1 to round 2. But remember, Busch had a 48.9 in round number 1. If he can replicate that in round 2, Kyle Busch will take the pole. So Briscoe and Priest are 1 and 2 right now. And it's on to Kyle Busch in his 21st attempt at the Daytona 500. He's never won the race. He's never won a pole for this race, and now trying to get a pole. Maybe he gets both milestones on the same weekend. That'd be quite the week. .49.02 is going to be a tough time to beat for Busch, but we'll see if he can do it. His teammate Austin Dillon just missed out on the top 10 in qualifying in round 1. All right, round 2 for Busch. Oh, man. Not the greatest start to the lap. It's going to be tight. He actually did have a pretty good exit to turn 2. Carries momentum more off turn 4. Holds on Kyle Busch to the pole. He did drop off from round 1, but not enough to take him off the top spot. A sweep in qualifying for Kyle Busch as he, in his 21st Daytona 500, is going to get his first career pole. How about that? 25 years after the passing of Dale Earnhardt Sr. at RCR, they're going to get a pole for the Daytona 500 in the year 2026. Kyle Busch is going to get it done. 49.006 with a 183.651 mile per hour average. Fantastic job by that RCR program. And how about a feel-good story to finish off our Wednesday night? Our front row for the Daytona 500 is set. Kyle Busch, first career pole. And for the second consecutive year, Chase Briscoe on the front row. He'll be starting in second. That means Busch will be leading the field to the green in dual race number 1. Dual 2, Chase Briscoe will be on the pole for that one. Commercial break as of right now on Fox Sports 1. We'll take a quick break of our own. When we come back, there will be interviews with both Busch and Briscoe. And then we will also end up potentially getting an interview with Allgaier and Heim. I'm surprised I didn't interview Allgaier, to be completely honest, after he made his qualifying run. Any interviews obviously coming forth, you'll be able to listen into. We'll go over the starting lineup for both dual races for tomorrow as well here shortly. I'm not going to be able to show the graphic on screen. For the dual races themselves, but I'll be able to read them off for you before we get out of here. So again, we'll take a quick break and then we'll have some interviews on the other side. I'm sure we got to get a Richard Childress interview in here as well as Kyle Busch. I'm sure they'll be standing side by side with one another. Had to send a text out to a friend of mine that's a Kyle Busch fan. Congratulatory to them. That's awesome. All right, here's your pole sitter, Kyle
The
Busch.
first time, Kyle, you are the pole sitter for the Great American Race. How does that sound?
It sounds really good right now. Certainly here on Wednesday night and being able to qualify on my first pole for the Daytona 500, that's pretty special. I've had one other speedway pole in my career down here in Daytona for the summer race, but this feels good. It feels really good for RCR as a group. Everybody from ECR, thanks to Bob and his whole team there, especially thanks to Zone Nicotine Pouches for being on board with us. Maybe it was the Flames. I don't know. Maybe it was the Flames that brought us all the speed and the heat that we needed for tonight. But also Lucas Oil, obviously their fuel treatments and oil treatments and everything that we run in this race car to give us the speed that we need to be up front. So just a valiant effort by everybody here, and it'd be really nice to be doing an interview like this about being number one come Sunday night.
That's right, because Kyle Busch looking for his first Daytona 500 win as well, Mike.
He'll be one of 7 NASCAR Cup champions in the field for Sunday's Daytona 500. He'll share the front row with Chase Briscoe's Toyota. And
Yep, here's Briscoe.
On the front row for the 2nd year in a row. He was last year's pole sitter for Joe Gibbs.
We're not gonna get
Chevy.
We're not gonna get an interview with Chase Briscoe. What are we doing here? I thought we always interviewed the top 2 and. Ay, ay, ay. I mean, at least they interviewed Kyle Busch. Scraping the bottom of the barrel here with Fox. I was expecting us to get an interview with Chase Briscoe as well. I'm going to refrain from reading off the starting lineup until I know for a fact we're not going to get the interview, but they were talking about Chase Briscoe getting a front row starting spot, but I don't think we're going to get the interview. All right, well, I guess I'll go over the starting lineup for tomorrow's dual races at Daytona. So give me a quick second. I did take some snapshots of the 11th through. Are they not going to show it on TV at all either? I think they're cutting to college basketball right now. That is insane. So not only we don't get an interview with the outside pole sitter of the Daytona 500, but we also don't even get a look at the starting lineup for the dual races tomorrow. I'm going to hold off for a second because they might end up coming back from break and we might get all that, but I don't know if we will. It seemed like they were going off the air. Oh, I'm on screenshots. No wonder I couldn't find it. I was like, wait a minute. I know I took photos of this. All right. So, starting lineup for dual race number 1 at Daytona, which will set up the inside row for the Daytona 500, will look like this. Row number 1 will be Kyle Busch and Ryan Preece. Then in row number 2, it is going to be Corey Heim and Kyle Larson. Row number 4 will then be Chris Buescher and Joey Logano. I believe I've got my order correct there. And I believe that is dual race number 1. And if I'm mistaken on that at all, I apologize, but it's not in order on NASCAR.com right now. So that is the, let me wait for them to come back from commercial just in case. I want to make sure I get this information correct to you all. Just trying to do the quick math in my head there. The disorganized lap times in the top 10. I believe the only one that was out of order was the fact that Heim jumped over Hamlin, or sorry, not Hamlin, but Bowman and Larson. Okay, so that's where I had it wrong. Okay, I got it now. So row number 1, Kyle Busch and Ryan Preece for dual race number 1 at Daytona. Row 2 for dual race number 1 is going to be Corey Heim and Kyle Larson. In row number 4, no, see, that's where I'm messing it up. Yeah, I need them to come back from commercial. I want to get this right before we go off the air, and I apologize for that. It's really weird when you're looking at the lap times right here in front of us. Busch, Preece, because you have to skip over one. And then we would skip Hamlin to Heim. So then it'd be Heim, Larson. Then I would think that we'd skip Buescher, then go to Elliott and Gibbs. I think they're going off the air. I don't think they're going to show the starting lineup. No, they did not. All right, well, I'm on my own. Here we go. I'll do my best. They did not show the starting lineup on FS1. That is crazy. Yeah, we'll go over the starting lineup here. I got it right now. I had to talk it out loud to you guys on screen for me to be able to get this right. Row 1 for dual race number 1 in tomorrow's duels at Daytona beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern. We've got Kyle Busch and Ryan Preece in row number 1. Then row number 2 is going to be Corey Heim and Kyle Larson. Row number 3 is going to be Chase Elliott and then Ty Gibbs. Row number 4, Christopher Bell and Corey LaJoie. Austin Cindric, Zane Smith in row 5. Row 6 will be Michael McDowell and Connor Zilich. Row 7, Eric Jones and Josh Berry. Carson Hocevar with Riley Herbst is going to be row 8. Row number 9 will be Todd Gilliland and Anthony Alfredo. Shane Van Gisbergen and Daniel Suarez round out row number 10. And row 11 will be Chandler Smith and Casey Mears, 2 open entries. And then Noah Gragson will be starting last by himself in row number 12 in tomorrow's duel. So 23 cars in duel 1. And then we will have 22 cars in duel number 2. And your duel race number 2 starting lineups will be outside pole sitter Chase Briscoe on the pole. Starting second will be Denny Hamlin. And then we will have Alex Bowman and Chris Buescher in row number 3. Row number 4 is going to be Joey Logano and Austin Dillon. Row number 5 will be Justin Allgaier and John Hunter Nemechek. Let me get that straight here. Logano, Dillon, row 3. Row 4, Allgaier, Nemechek, yep. And then row 5 will be Brad Keselowski and Ryan Blaney, the 2 Fords. Row 6 will be William Byron and Cole Custer. Row 7, Cody Ware, Jimmy Johnson. Row number 8 is going to be Bubba Wallace and AJ Allmendinger. Ty Dillon and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will be row number 9. Ross Chastain and Ty Dillon will be row number 9. Then Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Tyler Reddick, row 10. Row 11, rounding out the field, is going to be BJ McLeod and JJ Yaley in that duel. So as far as the 3 teams that have to race their way in tomorrow in the duels, the top finisher in each dual race will advance into the Daytona 500. The 3 drivers who are going to be in dual race number 1 are going to be Anthony Alfredo, Casey Mears, and Chandler Smith. So that's a pretty evenly stacked group. Obviously Casey Mears is going to be the underdog there. But if he can stay in the pack, obviously he's got a shot to stay out of trouble as well. So Casey Mears, Chandler Smith, and Anthony Alfredo are the 3 drivers who will be in dual race number 1. Then dual race number 2, the open entries, are J.J. Yaley, B.J. McLeod, and Corey LaJoie. And LaJoie is going to have a really good opportunity, obviously, there to race his way in with the speed he had in single car qualifying tonight. I'd be shocked if he doesn't race his way in tomorrow. He stays out of trouble. It's going to be tough for Live Fast and an NBA or Live Fast and New York racing team to knock him out. But yeah, that would be it. I heard you fart, Keegan. It was not a fart. It was actually my chair. Leather. There we go. Yep, there it goes. Leather chair. Leather chair. All right, that's enough of that. I know it sounded like I was rambling there for the last couple minutes of the stream. I apologize for that. I had to read off the leaderboard without being able to really show you guys because the raw feed was off, and I had to figure it out for myself because Fox went off the air without showing us the starting lineup for the Daytona 500. Thanks for tuning in as always. I will see you guys tomorrow night for the dual races. We'll be live at 7 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see each and every one of you there. Be sure to hit the like button on this stream if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more NASCAR content like this. We'll be live all NASCAR season long for pole qualifying for every race, as well as practice sessions for the Cup Series minus this week through Speed Weeks. And we will also not only be live for all that, but all the racing coverage for O'Reilly trucks and Cup Series races. Speed Week still to come here tomorrow night. Again, duels will be live 7 p.m. Eastern for both of them on the same stream. And have a good rest of your night, everybody. Enjoy your Wednesday. We'll see you back and better than ever tomorrow in a little less than 24 hours.